Okay, you seen Endgame? You seen Spider-Man Far From Home? This is the Spider-Man Far From Home spoiler talk. I'm gonna spoil everything in this movie, a lot in this movie. There's so much in this movie I want to talk about, I want to spoil, that I couldn't touch upon in my regular Spider-Man Far From Home review. It was driving me nuts. I just gotta get it all out. So here we go. Spoilers for Endgame and spoilers for Spider-Man Far From Home are happening. And if you'd like to talk about this movie in spoilers with me, I welcome you to do so, and I'd love for you to do so. Just comment all your thoughts and opinions and what shocked you the most in Spider-Man Far From Home down in the comment section below. And with all that out of the way, let's talk about some spoilers for Spider-Man Far From Home. Okay, so this movie opens up to an in memoriam video for Iron Man, Captain America, and Black Widow. First of all, cheap movie. Cheap way to get my tears. Opening with Tony Stark's face and playing And I Will Always Love You by Whitney Houston. It worked. I started tearing up the minute this movie started, and then you find out it's for the announcements at Peter's high school, and that's where you really get to talk about everything that happened after Endgame, because Endgame took place 5 years after Infinity War. The people who were dusted came back, and the world was 5 years older. Everyone that was not dusted grew 5 years older, and so at the end of Endgame, everyone was like, well, how does that work? Are they going to address that in Spider-Man Far From Home? And they do address it in Spider-Man Far From Home, and they use it in comedic ways. Older brothers now being younger than their younger brothers. They call it the blip, which I really loved. They say that the people that came back, because they don't know it's a snap. They weren't there. We were there, but the world wasn't there. So they call it the blip because people were gone, and then they were back. And the people that were gone, when they came back, nothing had changed for them. And there's a great video of when the snap happened and people dusting in the auditorium, turning into dust in the auditorium of Peter's high school. And then 5 years later during a basketball game, when the blip happens, when everyone comes back from the snap, the marching band is in the middle of the auditorium and the basketball players crash into them. That was hilarious. I loved that so much. And we also see Spider-Man at a charity event with Aunt May for homeless people that have lost their homes over the 5 years. When they were gone for the 5 years, they no longer have a home. I really like that they touched upon that too, that people in the economy lost stuff because they were gone for 5 years. Their stuff got sold. They no longer had it, so people came back to no homes. People came back to families that had moved on. I like that they touched upon that. I did want a little bit more, but I do like that it was here in the movie. But it also does give us the character that I mentioned in my review that I feel like could have been taken out, and that was the character of Brad, who was also going after MJ. He was one of the kids that didn't dust, and now he's 5 years older, and apparently when they knew him, he was this whiny little brat, and now he's a really good-looking young man. So he's going after MJ, so that was like another obstacle that they put in Peter's way. But I just didn't feel like that character needed to be there because Peter already had obstacles. He was trying to juggle being a superhero, not letting MJ know, while also trying to get close to MJ. But he had to keep leaving. And I just feel like the character of Brad could have been cut out of the movie. He also leads to the joke that I said I didn't like, where Peter, he's been recruited by Nick Fury, his trip has been hijacked by Nick Fury, and he meets up with this like Russian lady, and she goes, "Take off your clothes." That was a terrible Russian impression. But she goes, "Take off your clothes," and so he starts stripping down right there, which I thought was weird. I was like, why wouldn't Peter, like, we can see there's a door right over there. Just go into that door and get undressed there. Like, he just starts stripping down in front of this lady. He's in his underwear. Brad walks in. He's with the lady. Brad thinks that he's like hooking up while they're in Europe, and he takes a picture. That whole joke, the whole setup, the whole execution, the whole way it played out just felt really strange. I didn't really like that joke in the movie. It just didn't feel like it worked. It just didn't feel like it worked. It felt like it was too strange, too weird. It didn't make me laugh. I didn't find it funny. I just found it strange. To also go into Peter's struggle in this movie that I really love was in Endgame, Tony Stark passes away. He does the snap. He dies. So now the world is looking for the next Iron Man, and people are starting to look to Peter for that. And Peter is feeling really insecure about that. He doesn't feel like he can be the next Tony Stark. Everyone's looking to him to be the next Tony Stark. Everyone's looking at him and expected him to be the leader of the Avengers because Stark is the one that chose him. Stark chose you is what they keep saying to Peter, and he doesn't feel like he's earned it. He doesn't necessarily feel worthy of being chosen by Tony Stark. And I really like that they added that kind of personal struggle within Peter Parker throughout the movie, and it really evolves and grows his character. I love when he has the heart-to-heart with Happy about how he's feeling. He doesn't feel like he can be the next Tony Stark. And it's really nice to see Happy from the first movie, who was ignoring Spider-Man's calls and telling him to stop calling him, to now being this kind of like supportive father type figure for Peter, and also being the one that he can mourn with, because they both knew Tony Stark on a personal level. So they kind of mourn and talk in remnants together. And I love the scene where they're in the jet, and Happy pulls out all of Tony's tech, and Peter goes in there and starts moving the holograms just as Tony Stark did. He's zooming in on things, he's scrolling through. It really does give you a flashback to that first Iron Man movie when Tony Stark is first creating the suit, and just the look on Happy's face was just such a good feeling. It was such a nice passing of the torch, and you can really see how they're kind of molding Peter and Spider-Man in this movie to be the next Iron Man, to be the one that takes up the lead in the Avengers, and I'm really looking forward to seeing Tom Holland grow into that role and become this really mature leader of the Avengers, and I really hope that Sony and Marvel keep their deal long enough for that to happen, because I'm really looking forward to it. Going on to Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio, I really like how they kept it comic accurate. I mean, I read the comic, and I read the Mysterio origin comics, so I know that he was just making himself look like the hero through holograms, but he was eventually going to turn and become the villain, and of course that is what happened. He starts off as this really nice guy. He lies about the multiverse. The multiverse was a lie that Mysterio made up to keep his ruse as Quentin Beck, and so that whole thing that we all geeked out about.
This is Mr. Beck.
We could have used someone like you on my world.
Your world? Beck is from Earth, just not ours.
The snap tore a hole in our dimension.
Whoa, the snap opened up in multiverse? Lie. And I really like how they addressed it too. He's like, oh, people like seen aliens and crap like that. They'll believe anything nowadays. And it's so true. Even us, it worked on a meta level, because even us, the audience, was like, oh yeah, multiverses. The snap opened up multiverses. That makes sense. And I love how they kind of did a meta trick on us. He tricked the world in the MCU, and he also tricked us, and I thought that was really cool. And so I like that they kept that accurate, because I kind of expected that to happen, and I wanted to see that happen. The way it happens, though, that's the exposition part that I was talking about that feels like it stops the movie, because Peter Parker and Mysterio are in this bar. This is also a convenience that I was talking about. He's in this bar, and Peter Parker has these glasses, Edith, that Tony Stark gave to him, where he basically has access to all of Tony's tech. Everything that Tony ever made is all kind of passed down to Peter, and he has control over it. And Beck is like, oh yeah, you don't look very good in those glasses. And then Peter's like, here, you try them on. And Peter's like, you know what, you look good in those. You should have them. Edith, I give control to Quentin Beck, and passes him off. And he's like, wow, thanks, man. Peter leaves the bar, and he's like, we did it! And all the holograms fall apart or whatever, and he gets on the table, and he's like, thank you for this, thank you for that. They even got one of the guys, the original guy that Obadiah Stane yelled at in the original Iron Man movie.
It's impossible. Tony Stark was able to build this in a cave with a box of scraps.
Actually got him to come back, and they connect it to the first Iron Man movie, which was crazy. And then they got Mysterio revealing that the tech in Civil War called Barf that Tony Stark was using to show the memory of him and his father and mother to the MIT crew or wherever he was. They show that Quentin Beck was in the background and that he actually designed that tech, and he was mad at Tony for using that tech and naming it Barf. It had some really cool Easter eggs in it, but it really did feel like the movie stopped, and it was like, oh, wait, oh yeah, okay, so this is everything that's going on, this is how this is happening, okay, I'm caught up, movie resume. It kind of broke the flow of the pacing that was going on for me. So I don't know, maybe that could have been handled smoother, but whatever. It was fun to see those flashbacks and kind of new perspective on scenes that we have seen before in the MCU. I thought that was a lot of fun. And then when Mysterio does become the villain, I love the Spider-Man versus Mysterio scenes in this movie, because Mysterio's just a guy. He's just a guy that Spider-Man could easily beat up, but what he does is he uses holograms, and they're so advanced that they confuse Spider-Man. Can't always see where Mysterio is, can't always believe who he's interacting with, because it could be a hologram made of Mysterio. And it can get a little confusing at times. There's times where it's like, wait, so was that a hologram, or did that actually happen when you think back on the movie? But the hologram scenes where Spider-Man is fighting Mysterio with these holograms are really cool. They're really inventive. They're trippy. They remind me a lot of like Doctor Strange, third eye opening kind of scenes. And they just got some really cool imagery. You got Spider-Man at Tony Stark's grave, and then a zombie Iron Man coming out, and his mask is all broken, and a spider crawls out of his eye. I thought that was so cool and so inventive, and it was a lot of fun. And that whole sequence just went on for like I don't know, 5 minutes, and I could have watched like half an hour. I could have watched that for so much longer. I thought it looked gorgeous. The CGI was so cool, and all the images that they projected on screen that Spider-Man was fighting through. Oh, I thought it was so great. That does lead to another kind of like plot hole or unexplained thing that was in the movie where it's kind of like revealed at the end that Peter Parker's having trouble finding Mysterio because he can't focus in on his spider sense, or as Aunt May calls it in this movie, Peter Tingle.
Hungry? I thought that you could sense that with your Peter Tingle.
Do not start calling it my Peter Tingle.
Which, speaking of Aunt May, going on a tangent here for a second, at the end of Spider-Man Homecoming, it was shown that Aunt May, at the very end of the movie, saw Peter in his Spider-Man suit, and that seemed to be set up for them to kind of like partner up, and I was kind of really looking forward to seeing how that was going to be, how Peter's Spider-Man was going to be with an Aunt May that kind of supported and also helped him out. And unfortunately, that aspect of the movie is in this movie very little. Marissa Tomei's Aunt May is in this movie very little. You don't really get to see that dynamic. I hope they show that dynamic in future movies, because I was really looking forward to seeing a Spider-Man who's kind of like working with his Aunt May as opposed to trying to hide his life from her. But they didn't really do that in this movie, which is fine. It was just a little thing that I wanted to see anyways. But back to On Track, off the tangent. It's kind of revealed at the end that Peter Parker, when he snaps into his spider sense, that he's able to find Mysterio through these illusions, and it's supposed to be this kind of big moment, but throughout the entire movie there hasn't really been that much discussion or kind of focus on the issue that Peter Parker can't use his spidey sense when he wants to, or doesn't know how to control it yet. So that kind of felt like, I don't know, unexplained, or just kind of like an afterthought thrown into the movie, where I was like, wait, like, why is he having trouble with his spidey sense? In Infinity War, his hair stood up, and in Civil War, when the cars coming behind him, he went, oh gosh, and he was able to get out of the way. Like it never really seemed like he was having trouble with his spidey sense, or at least they never demonstrated that to be an issue in the movie. So, I don't know, it just felt kind of inconsistent to me. But nonetheless, when he does attack Mysterio at the end and he gets through all the illusions, it's a really great moment. This has some of the most fun and most comic Spider-Man action in it, that the second half of this movie is really a fantastic Spidey movie. I love it. I love the second half of this movie. And then, yeah, I guess we can just talk about those post-credit scenes. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the last one first, because I really want to geek out on the first one, and I feel like that's a good one to end on. So I'll talk about the last one first. It's revealed throughout this entire movie that Maria Hill, played by Kobe Smulders, and Nick Fury, played by Samuel L. Jackson, were actually Skrulls from Captain Marvel, posing as them in this movie, which was very interesting, because throughout this movie, Nick Fury seemed like he was a little bit more jaded, had a bit more chip on his shoulder. He didn't feel like Nick Fury, and the movie kind of explained that, because he tells Peter, you know, I snapped, I was gone for 5 years, the blip happens, I don't have any intel, I know nothing, I've been gone for 5 years, I know nothing. And it was kind of interesting to see Nick Fury kind of be really jaded and angry about that, because for the first time in a long time, he's no longer on top of things. And then when they revealed that they were Skrulls at the very end, and Nick Fury's off on the Skrull ship, which I don't know, was he like drugged up? Was he looped up on something? Because it was he was acting kind of loopy. He was walking around the ship with all these Skrulls, and he was like, "All right, back to work." And where are my shoes? Like walking around, he just seemed kind of off for Nick Fury. So I don't really know where they're planning on going with that. But revealing that they were Skrulls is kind of cool, because on a second viewing, I'm going to look at Nick Fury and Maria Hill differently, and I'm going to kind of want to notice little things that the actors do to maybe see if there were hints or foreshadows that I missed first time around, and that could be really cool. So the second post-credit scene with the Skrull reveal, I thought was fun. It was cool. Little confusing, kind of sets up, I guess, where Nick Fury is going to be in Phase 4. But I enjoyed it. Okay. That final post-credit scene. So, Spider-Man, the last scene of the movie is Spider-Man, he's back in New York. He's now going out with Mary Jane. Oh yeah, MJ finds out, by the way, that Peter is Spider-Man in this movie. Gee, who would have, like, known that? Who could have guessed that? Oh, maybe the trailer showed us.
MJ,
I'm Spider-Man.
No, of course I'm not.
I mean, it's kind of obvious.
Yeah, I still don't like that was in the trailer. I didn't like it when I first saw it in the trailer. I felt like it should have been kept for the movie, and yeah, it should have been kept for the movie. I wish it wasn't in the trailer. But anyways, MJ finds out that Peter is Spider-Man in this movie. The end scene is him picking up MJ. They're going for a swing. They swing through New York City. Some of the credits roll. The post-credit scene, the first post-credit scene, they land on the sidewalk, and Peter jumps on like on a lamp pole. And all of a sudden, all the screens, I think they were in Times Square, go to breaking news, and they're like, we have some disturbing footage from Europe leaked by an anonymous person. I don't know, it was like Mysterio's team, I think. Anyways, they go, we're going to the Daily Bugle, and they go to the Daily Bugle, and they show J. Jonah Jameson. Now, there hasn't been J. Jonah Jameson in any of the Spider-Man movies besides the Sam Raimi ones, because I felt like they just couldn't cast anyone better than J.K. Simmons. And I guess that opinion still holds, because holy crap, they got J.K. Simmons back as J. Jonah Jameson for the Daily Bugle in this movie. Yeah, he looks a little different, looks a little shinier up there, sure. But it was J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson when he popped up, and I noticed that's J.K. Simmons. I freaked out. I waved my little T-Rex arms. I got so happy. It was so cool to see him back. I never thought I'd see J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson back in a Spider-Man film. So the fact that he popped up there, all the theories in the world, I never would have guessed that. I was waiting for like an Eddie Brock thing. Like, we have some breaking news. Some of this could be disturbing. It was going to be like Venom eating people, like from a shaky iPhone. Because there's been talks that Sony could see Spider-Man, this Tom Holland Spider-Man, crossing over with Venom in the future. I thought all those talks were kind of like PR, getting you ready for like the post-credit scene was like, oh yeah, and it's gonna happen. But that never happens. Something better happens. J.K. Simmons comes back and he's J. Jonah Jameson, and I'm so happy. And then it only gets better from there, because this footage of Mysterio's death is leaked, and talking about how Spider-Man has orchestrated this drone attack, and he's kind of altered like the audio in the footage. You see Mysterio on the ground, and you only see Spider-Man up to like his waist, and it's like, and I think it was Edith's voice, the glasses, saying like, should we initiate the strike with the drones? And then like audio dubbed over with Spider-Man's voice, yes. And they're basically framing Spider-Man. And if that wasn't bad enough, Mysterio doesn't just go, oh yeah, Spider-Man, yeah, he orchestrated this drone attack, he's a murderer, he's an attempted murderer, whatever. Like, you should be after this guy. Oh, by the way, his name's Peter Parker. Boom! Here's a photo of him. Like, holy crap. When that happened, my jaw just dropped. Not only is Spider-Man out for, like, probably right off the top of the most wanted list for orchestrating a drone attack that could... Whoops. Orchestrating a drone attack that killed people, but now Peter Parker... his name is out there. He has been outed as Spider-Man. His identity is exposed. This whole movie, he's been trying so hard to keep his identity a secret. Doesn't matter. Mysterio just ruined Peter's life with this photo and this framing. It makes me so excited and so curious where they're going with a third Spider-Man, or just Spider-Man in general in the MCU. Even after he clears his name, Peter Parker's life is never going to be the same. Everyone knows him as Spider-Man now. And it's just something we haven't seen in the movies yet. And I'm so excited to see how they're going to execute this, how they're going to pull it off. It's top 5 post-credit scenes in Marvel, by far. I couldn't believe it happened when it happened, and I'm still having a hard time believing that it happened. Did I have a fever dream? Did that not happen? Did I dream that? Please tell me down in the comment section that happened and that you saw that too, because I'm really amped about it. Yeah, Spider-Man Far From Home was really, really good. I really, really liked it. Just a couple things keep me from... screw it. I loved Spider-Man Far From Home. I don't care. I really liked it, loved it. There's such a fine line. I just thinking back to this movie and just spewing out my word vomit like I'm doing right now and just geeking out over it. There was a lot in this movie that I did really love. Spider-Man Far From Home really delivered for me. I really, really liked it. I might like it more than Homecoming. I still don't know. But anyway, guys, that is my spoiler talk. That is me geeking out over Spider-Man Far From Home. But what did you guys think? What are your favorite spoilers from the movie? What's your favorite moment in the movie? Favorite scene? Comment down below. Let me know. I want to know all your thoughts and opinions, spoiler-filled, in the comment section about Spider-Man Far From Home. And guys, thank you so much for talking Spider-Man Far From Home spoilers with me, or really geeking out with me. And as always, my name's Zachary Milne. Thank you for talking movies with me, and hope you have yourself a great day.